Good evening, everybody. Yes, I have ancestors. I did not get here on my own. I'm like the turtle on top of the fence post. Didn't get there by his own. There were ancestors that got me here. My family, the adults in my family, called me Little Alice, which made sense. I mean, my name is Alice. I'm named with my father. He's Alice Sr. I'm Alice Jr. And ever since I was born, I have been littler than him. So I was Little Alice. And it was very cool to be named after a man like Alice John Mozon Sr., the deacon, the scout leader, and all those great things. But the thing that really, really kept me joyful as a child was when people would say, "He's just like Hammy." Man, I could do stuff, especially around the church, especially around that facility in downtown Washington, D.C., where my mom and daddy really grew up in the Capitol Hill area. They grew up there, they went to church together there, and as they grew up and they married there, their family went there, as well as their family, which is my family, their aunt, their sisters and brothers, my cousins. We all were there at the same church, and they knew Hammy. You see, Hammy was my grandfather. And when people said, "just like Hammy," that meant I was doing something like my grandfather. Like, if I was doing something in church, which I shouldn't have been doing, for sure, one of the little old ladies in the church would say, "just like Hammy." Or if I did something in church that was very well and inspirational and motivated the other students and impressed the adults, they'd say, "just like Hammy." When Petey and Rufus and I got to be the three wise men in the Christmas pageant, the way we walked down the aisle, looking with such amazement and wonder. They had never seen any kids do like that. We were the best wise men ever. And they said, "just like Hammy." Or maybe the time when between Sunday school and the 11 o'clock service, me and my friends had snuck off to the store about 2 or 3 blocks away and gotten some nourishment, some refreshments to get us through the long preaching and saying and shouting services. And then we're coming back 2 minutes late from church, and they'll say, "Mozon, I thought you were supposed to be a youth leader." I said, "I am. I just led my youth to the store, and now you keep us making us late for church or holding us up." And of course, someone would say, "just like Hammy." Hamilton Andrew Payne Jr., my mother's father, was a man who was solid as a rock. He had a deep bass voice, and I wanted so badly to be just like Hammy. But, until I was in 9th grade, I was sort of like talking like this. And in the 9th grade, at the end of the 8th grade year, I can remember trying out for the choir, the 9th grade choir, which is really a good choir. And my voice just kept cracking. It just could not find its place. But over the summer, when September came, and I came back as a full 9th grader, and I auditioned for the choir, this teacher said, "Look at him. He's the skinniest and tiniest little guy with the deepest voice." And when the people at church heard what I could sing now, they said, "just like Hammy." I mean, there was nothing like those times when Hammy would be in the bass section, and then my daddy would be in the bass section, and then I'd be in the bass section, and then my little brother, who was more of a baritone, tenor kind of guy, but he'd get down low with me and Hammy, just like Hammy. He was the kind of man that was a steadying, guiding, inspirational force in the family. Although, sadly, he wasn't around for a lot of the good things. You see, somewhere before I came along, Hammy and Grandma Dot weren't together anymore. So whenever we had these gorgeous family gatherings, Thanksgiving, Christmas, with all the cousins, with all the siblings of my mother being there, Hammy was never there. In my lifetime, I never saw Hammy surrounded by all of his children and grandchildren at one time. And we rarely got to see him. I mean, we heard he had a room somewhere with Miss B. And they lived together somewhere, but they didn't live with Grandma Dot in the house that a lot of the siblings of my mother had grown up in. And it always made me sad that a man like Hammy could never be there for all those family gatherings. And I decided, I don't know their story, but I think divorce is not a good thing, and I'm gonna try very hard to not let that happen to me, because it's not about right and wrong, it's just like it makes it really hard for a lot of the family. So that's one way I didn't want to be just like Hammy, but in so many ways. To be an inspirational person who could talk and joke and bring good memories and good times to people. I wanted to be just like him. And Tuesday night was a time when Hammy was on the best display. You see, Grandma Mozon, my father's mother, lived with us in our home. And on Tuesday night, Cousin Dina, who's my mother's first cousin, would bring Hammy and Hammy's mother, my great-grandmother, up to the house. The neighbors knew that they were there because the Mozons and the Paynes were a rather large volume people. So when something was going on in the house, the neighborhood knew. Grandma Mozon would make those, she was from South Carolina. She was part of the Great Migration when all the African Americans would leave the Jim Crow South and move away and try to find the American dream, the place of hope and healing and freedom. And they moved to D.C., the nation's capital, which they thought would be better. But I learned when I went to college, they said, D.C. is below the Mason-Dixon line. It's a southern city, but it was on the northern side. But anyway, the point was that on Tuesdays, we all came together. Mom's side of the family, and Dad's family, because Grandma Mozon was undoubtedly the best. I mean, she had those South Carolina greens, and those South Carolina fried chicken, and those South Carolina mac and cheese. She had, like the yeast rolls. And Dina was an interesting character. Dina was one who drove them. You see, Great-Grand had raised Dina and Hammy and Dina's brother and sister all in the same house. And then my mother grew up in that same, so it was about a 3-generation home. They all grew up together. But somehow on Tuesday night, they would get together and talk about L Street and all the things that happened, all the stories that happened in their life. Because Hammy was there. And the funny thing about whenever Dina would bring Hammy up, Hammy was a smoker. Big Olives, my daddy, did not allow smoking in the house. But he had respect for his father-in-law. So they had this arrangement. There was a little green beanbag ashtray that would be set out on the front porch on Tuesdays. So that as Granddaddy would come up, he could put his cigarette out in that ashtray and then go in the house and have a great family time.
Yeah, that's your juicer.
Boy, to be a man who's considered just like Hammy was indeed a great thing. So I just wanted to take you all to meet a couple of my heroes. Let me tell you one thing that really admired me about Cousin Dina. What Dina always did when he brought them up, he always brought them up to my house in a big, fancy Lincoln Continental. And he had a Mark I, Mark II, III, every year he got the mark. And I said, Dana, I've noticed that your mail always comes to our house. And you come up here at least once a week to get your mail. Why don't you have your own house, your own mailbox? He said, Alice, you can sleep in your car, but you can't ride in your house.